Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming today to our Leadership is a Choice course. This is a brand new course for us at Allergan, and Hayley and I are going to take you through the program today. This is actually our training program, so you are the first individuals to go through this, so we're really excited. So the first thing I'd like you to do is stand up for me. We're just going to do a very little exercise. I want you to cross your arms. Just fold your arms. Okay. Now I want you to fold them the other way.
I don't know if I did.
It feels really strange, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you have to really intentionally think about making that change. And that's part of what we're going to go through today. So have a seat. So sometimes our patterns of behaviour serve us well, and sometimes they don't. And that's part of what we're going to talk about. So when you think of leadership, who comes to mind? Just pick some names out there.
Glenn, the leadership team.
Glenn, yeah. Yeah.
Dalai Lama. Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Barack Obama.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it Tony Turnbull?
Malcolm Turnbull. He's our Prime Minister.
Yes.
Yes, Rach. So we often think about people at this level. So do you recognise anybody on this?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got Barack, who you all mentioned anyway, and the Dalai Lama. You know, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Winston Churchill. So we often think about leadership as being something that's possibly unattainable because we think of these people, and we're not those people. That's not who we're talking about today. We're talking about us and changing our mindset and being leaders within our organisation. So we're talking about all of us. So sometimes we make leadership bigger than Ben-Hur. You know, we think that we have to be a world leader, or we even think we have to be Glenn. And some of us are never going to be the managing director of an organisation. And we think of that as leadership. But we can actually be leaders ourselves within our organisation, within our roles. So that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to show you a little video, and it's about a lollipop moment. It doesn't make sense to you now, but it will once you see the video.
How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do that we convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, "I remember the first time that I met you." And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, "On my day before I started university, I was in a hotel room with my mom and my dad, and I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, 'Look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day. And if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us and we'll take you home. We love you no matter what.' And she said, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she said, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I've ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shine Around, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shinorama. And all of a sudden, you got to me and you just stopped and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me and you smiled and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop and you held it out to him. And you said, said, I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life. He turned beet red. He wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face, and you looked at my mom and my dad, and you said, look at that. Look at that. First day away from home, and already she's taking candy from a stranger. And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this. But in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm going to miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, you should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later. A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker, I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment, and I've searched my memory banks because that is funny, and I should remember doing it, and I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, you've been an incredibly important person in my life, was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you have it, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. But it is so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. Because as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us. And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it. And our little brothers and our little sisters, and one day our kids, or our kids right now, can watch us start to value the impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and titles and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you've changed the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we can change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today.
What did you think of that?
That's really good.
It's pretty powerful, isn't it? That you think of that, one thing that we say or do can have such an impact on somebody. I want to share a moment with you that I've had. It's actually only recently, and thinking about this and how what my personal values are. Would be about 5 or 6 years ago now, a colleague of mine in the US, when I was working at my last job, wrote to me and said, there's a lady from my church, she's in America, there's a lady from my church going to Australia. She's travelling by herself, she's an elderly lady in her 70s. He said, can I give her your details so that if something goes wrong, she's got a contact? I said, yeah, sure. I said, no problem. So he passed them on. I said, look, I'll take her out to dinner while we're here, while she's here, I don't know if she's travelling. She was travelling by herself, so I'll take her out to dinner. So I took her out to dinner, and we had a lovely night. She was a lovely lady. She was one of those really well-educated. She was a teacher, really curious. I had a great night. She was so interesting to talk to. She travelled the world. And anyway, that was the end of that. I've never heard from her again, and that was the end of it. Anyway, just over the last weekend, I haven't heard from him, mind you, for the last 3 years, but he sent me a note and he said, I was thinking of you because I recently went to a funeral. I know that sounds weird, but he said, do you remember Flora, the lady who came to Australia? And he said at the funeral, her daughter got up and said that, how much she loved travelling and as part of the eulogy. And she said she mentioned you, me, at the funeral, because I had sort of shown her kindness. Well, she really appreciated the kindness that I'd shown her, that I didn't even think twice about. It was just something that I did because that's who I am. But it had a really big impact on her, and I didn't even know it. So that was kind of a real lollipop moment for me, that me living my values and just being kind to someone and you know, looking after them, had a really profound impact on her, so much so that her daughter said that Australia was actually the last big trip that she took before she got ill, and how much she loved it and how much she appreciated what I'd done for her. So that's just an example of, you know, for me, a lollipop moment that I didn't even know. It's exactly what he said. The world's made up of all these little lollipop moments that we all have. We don't even know about it half the time. But if we live our values, if we live with that positive intent all the time, that's leadership. And that's what we're talking about today. Do you guys have any lollipop moments? Can you think of anything that anybody's ever told you about that you've done for somebody else? Or that, have you got something that somebody's done for you that you never told them?
I can't really think of anything else.
No, no, that's okay. But I guess part of what we want when you leave this course is to start thinking about that. And it really fits into what we're trying to do here as part of our culture. As you know, we just introduced the thank you cards. You know, it's not about monetary reward. This is nothing to do with that. But this is just about that positive intent of saying thank you to someone. So this actually fits in really nicely with the culture we're trying to build within the organisation. So the leadership model that we're going to be using today is called, it's drama versus leadership. Okay, so you've probably seen Hayley and I have been reading a book madly called "Save the Drama for Your Mama," and it's a really good book. We keep talking about all these examples out of it all the time. It's a really good book to read, and we're happy to sort of pass it on to you when we finish with it. But what it's about leadership versus drama. So we want to take the drama out of our lives. Okay, so it's about assuming positive intent versus assuming negative intent. It's about being accountable rather than avoiding accountability. And again, that's one of the values here at Allergan anyway. We all want to, we want our employees to be accountable for what they do. And it's about adopting an internal locus of control, meaning that we're empowered to make decisions for ourselves, versus adopting an external locus of control where we're blaming other people for everything that goes wrong in our lives. And being in HR, we all know how often that happens within the organisation alone. But we can make that decision to not do that. We're empowered to do that. So, the objectives today is about choosing to be a leader. Not one of the world leaders, it's about being a leader for ourselves. It's about being intentionally a leader. So it's something that we have to practice. You know, we're not always good at, you know, you just said you couldn't think of an example of, you know, your lollipop moment, and that's okay. But if we intentionally think about this stuff, we're going to start recognising those moments. We want to take the drama out of our lives. Drama is exhausting. It takes a lot of energy to be a drama queen, you know, and so we want to take the drama out of our lives. But we can't do that until we can't lead others until we lead ourselves first. Okay, so this program is all about us and about the decisions that we're going to make. So it starts with your mindset, and it's really just a way of thinking. We're not asking you, excuse me, to do anything big and dramatic. We just want you to start thinking about this stuff and making it an intentional thought on a daily basis. So, imagine we all think we can multitask. We all think we're really good listeners. We all think that we're pretty proactive and take initiative at what we do. But have a think about when you're talking to someone. Have you ever been in that situation where somebody's actually, you're in the middle of a conversation and they've pulled out their cell phone? They pulled out their mobile and oh, hang on a minute. Sorry, Rach, just wait a sec. Okay, sorry, what were you saying? Oh, hang on, just let me do this. Oh, sorry. How does that make you feel if somebody does that to you?
Unimportant.
Unimportant. Rach, what about you?
Irritated.
Irritated, exactly. So what studies have found is that When somebody does that to you, it actually lights up the part of your brain that makes you feel like you've been slapped in the face. Kind of you get that instant, your gut kind of tightens and you get angry and you just think, really? What are you doing? I'm in the middle of a conversation, I'm trying to tell you something. So that's the impact that it can actually have on you. When we don't pay attention, when we don't listen, that's the impact that we're having on other people. And we've all done it. Let's face it, we've all been guilty of it. You know, we're not perfect. So again, it comes back to our thought and being present in the moment when we're with somebody. So, negative versus positive intentions. So, if we have negative intentions, we judge what people are saying negatively, don't we? So if we're thinking poorly about somebody in the beginning, this is what we're going to do. It's very hard to come back from that. We're going to ignore them. We might attack them. We might dominate the conversation or dominate them with our body language. Or we might even withdraw and think, oh, it's too hard, I can't be bothered. I'm just so not interested in you. So that's the impact that we can have on people. When we have positive intentions, we're curious. We seek to understand people, and non-verbal encourages the other person to engage with us. We bring out the best in others, we ask questions, and we listen. And these are the things that we want to, obviously on this side of the board, these are the behaviours that we want to show every day. This is leadership. So have you ever met someone and they remind you of someone and you have that instant reaction to them? You might like them or you might dislike them. Has that ever happened? Yeah? Was it a like or a dislike?
It was a lie.
Okay, and how did you respond to that person because you liked them?
I opened up to them easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference, doesn't it,
Yeah,
when you find someone who reminds you, that they remind you of somebody. Have you had somebody negative? Have you had somebody that you go, oh, I went to school with someone called Angela and I really didn't like her, and you meet the next Angela as an example and you just go, Has that ever happened? No?
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
It's on my mind.
It's like the baby names, right? People say, oh, I went to school with someone called so-and-so, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, I can't call my baby that now.
Exactly. And imagine being a teacher. I always think teachers would be the hardest people to actually name your child because they have so many children and they'd be going, oh, I don't like Jason, or I don't like, Annie, or I don't like, because I had one in my class. So yeah, so it's really, it is, we instantly judge, don't we, as soon as we meet someone. I want to show you a video of exactly this.
doubt, that was the biggest surprise I have had in 3 years on the show. When you stood there with that cheeky grin and said, I want to be like Elaine Page, everyone was laughing at you. No one is laughing now. That was stunning. An incredible performance. Amazing. I'm reeling from shock. About you two, but
I am so thrilled because I know that everybody was against you. I honestly think that we were all being very cynical, and I think that's the biggest wake-up call ever. And I just want to say that it was a complete privilege listening to that. It was in full glory.
I knew the minute you went out on that stage that we were going to hear something extraordinary, and I was right. Not a lot of touch. Susan, you are a little tiger, aren't you? You are. Okay, moment of truth. Here's yes or no. The biggest yes I have ever given anyone. Amanda?
Yes, definitely.
Susan Boyle, you can go back to the village with your head held high. It's 3 S's.
What happened to her?
Oh, she got a recording contract.
But then wasn't she depressed afterwards or something?
Yeah, but you know, it's just managing. But how powerful is that? I mean, that is the classic example of us prejudging somebody. I mean, we all would have done it, right? Exactly what they did. This woman, middle-aged woman, walks out on stage. You know, there's nothing spectacular looking about her, and we all made a judgment. And how amazing was that? I mean, like Amanda said, biggest wake-up call about not judging before we hear somebody. So now we're going to take you through, I'm going to ask you to do an exercise. So obviously there's 2 of you, so we're going to get you to pair up. So we have person A and person B. So person A, I want you to think of a subject that's genuinely important to you. And I want you to tell person B that story, but person B, I want you to sit there with negative intentions. Do whatever you like. I just don't want you to listen to the other person. I want you to fiddle. You can walk out of the room if you want. That's totally up to you. But I want you to not be responsive to the other person. Okay? We're going to take 2 minutes to do that, and then we're going to swap it over. Okay? So choose person A, person B.
You don't need to be person A.
Because you're both going to get a go. Okay? And Hayley's going to time it for me. So you've got 2 minutes, Rach, to tell your story. And Kath, I want you to just be as rude as you like. Go for it.
Right, I'm just going to talk to you about my family. I'm one of 5, there's 5 people in my family. I'm the youngest. I'm the 13th grandchild on both sides. I'm the youngest on both sides. On my mum's side, we've got 27 of us. We're a pretty big family.
Sorry.
And on my mum's side, I've got no grandparents left, but we all live close together. We've got 2 families up in Queensland, 2 down in New South Wales, and yeah, we're a pretty close family. And yeah, we're spending Christmas together this year. We're getting all together. We're having a big Christmas dinner and lunch. And for Boxing Day, we're going to see my dad's side of the family, and we're going to be travelling all over the coast. And
Okay, you can stop.
Okay. Thank you.
it gets to be frustrated when you're not looking at me.
All right, we're going to debrief about that soon. I want you to swap over. Kath, I want you to tell the story, and Rach, you can be just as rude back.
Oh, you took my subject. I think what's important to me is, again, as you say, family. I grew up with and my parents have very family, a family culture in them as well because they're quite close to their siblings. Yeah, no, I definitely think as we grow up and they have families of their own, we more we're more close and I'm closer to my nephews and my niece because I am close to my sister, so I do feel that family is an important part of my life, and I want a partner who is the same, who carries the same values as me.
You can stop there. That's amazing.
Literally. Frustrated when someone would look at you.
Okay, so staying with your partner, I want you to tell you can tell the same story or a different story, it's up to you, but this time I want you to listen. This time I want you to have positive intent towards the other person, and we're going to debrief. We're going to swap and then we're going to debrief after that. So, Rach, over to you.
So I just do the same thing?
Whatever you like, you can do whatever you like, but I want Kath to show the positive intent towards you.
Alright.
Okay.
So family. So this year we're spending Christmas Day with my mum's family and Boxing Day with my dad's family. So with my mum's family there's two families up in Queensland, and then there's two families down in Sydney.
Yeah.
So we'll be travelling to Sydney to see them, and then later on in the year we'll see my mum's side that lives up in Queensland. And for Boxing Day we normally just go for a Boxing Day lunch. Yeah, and then it really sucks because we've got to travel to Sydney and everything because we're from the coast and everything. But yeah, we'll go down and see them, probably stay a couple of nights down in Sydney with the family. It's good to catch up with them because I'm the youngest, as I said before, so it's good to catch up with all the cousins and see what's going on in their life, and yeah, and then it's good to have like a week off, so see family. It's really good.
Yeah, always nice.
And it's always good to catch up with family, like you don't see them during the year and everything, so.
Great.
It's time.
Okay, swap
It's
over.
easy
Oh
when it's-
man. Oh, we talk about family then. So between Christmas and New Year's Day, Allingham shuts down, as you know, and we've been lucky to find a very nice cruise sail online. So we're going on a 3-day cruise out to sea and back. I'm really, really excited for that.
Really nice.
Yeah, it'll be so nice. We've had all the way since last year. We went to Europe, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. So, have you been on a cruise before? Yeah, neither have I, but they say all you can see is sleep, so.
Keep going.
On top of that, Pete's parents will be joining us because they're old and they want a holiday with us. So we're on a cruise. And we got a really, really good deal on this big splash sail. It was like $350 per person.
Wow.
So yeah, I think so. And it doesn't take, we're not taking time out of our annual leave because it's forced leave, as you know. Yeah.
Okay, it's time.
Good. All right, let's have a little chat about that. So tell me, did you learn something about each other that you didn't know?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah? And through which exercise did you learn? Was it when you were displaying negative intent or positive intent?
I think both.
Okay. Okay. So how did the negative intent feel when you were talking to each other for both the experience?
Frustrating, like I just kept getting flustered because she was so distracted by everything. So it was really frustrating not having someone listening to you.
Yeah. What about for you, Kat?
Again, it bothered me, and obviously it lost my trail of thought with where I was going. So definitely frustrating.
Yeah. So you can really feel, even just the feeling that you had, it's like what we said before, you know, when somebody's not listening to you or not showing you that positive intent, it hits you in the part of the brain that gets you really frustrated and angry, and it's, we were just watching you, it was really interesting because you kept losing your train of thought, you could not concentrate on what you were saying because Rachel was looking everywhere else, so it was amazing just for us to physically watch it as well. to see the difference. And you could see Rachel was blushing and she was kind of trying to catch your eye, and you know, you could just see it. So it does have a profound effect on us. And interestingly, the negative intent, although we said we were going to do it for 2 minutes, we did it for 1 minute.
Really?
Yeah.
But I bet it felt like a hell of a long time. Whereas we actually went for the full 2 minutes for the positive intent, which flowed so much easier, and you probably, you know, you got through it so much easier. So, yeah.
It was definitely more encouraging
Yeah.
Yeah.
the second time round.
Yeah. So it just shows how important it is for us to sort of show that intent, you know, to anybody that we come across in all of our communications on a daily basis. Okay, so leadership influence. So words, verbals, non-verbals, you just experienced all of that in that little exercise. I guess what percentage do you think of our communication comes across in words, in the words that we use? So when we're talking to someone, you know, how much of it do you take in when I'm speaking?
So what's the difference between verbals and words? Oh, as in how you say it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
very
your tone,
minimal.
your intonation, and your voice, the pace, those sorts of things.
Are you
yeah.
asking us for a percent?
Yeah. So what's the percent? How much of communication do you think do I communicate, or do people communicate generally through words?
I think this one's very minimal. I think it's about 25%.
Yeah, 25%, right?
I was going to say 35.
Okay. All right. Let's have a look. It's actually 7%. What about
Wow.
non-verbals? What about the verbal? So my tone, my speed, those sorts of things. How much of that do you think we actually take in through verbals?
Is that a bit higher?
60% through verbals?
I was going to say 40.
40? Sure. 38%. We're very close, right? Okay. So they're clearly, if you do the maths, 55% is through the
Wow.
non-verbals. It's through just, you know, you having a look at someone. And that's, I suppose, where the judgment comes in, right? So that's why it's really important how we approach people and how we are. So, because we take in most of our communication through non-verbals. Okay. All right. So judgments that don't help you to assume positive intent. Okay? So it's the judgments that we make that don't help us to assume positive intent. So, assuming positive intent, this is just some daily practice hints, and we are going to give you some little cards after this to actually take away, just as a reminders of practicing this on a daily basis. So when we assume positive intent, be curious, okay? Ask yourself, what do they know that I don't? What can I discover from this conversation? Encourage, make eye contact, nod, lean forward. You guys just displayed that. You were, particularly in the positive, you know, when you were going through that positive intent exercise, you were both nodding, you were communicating back to each other, you know, and you were smiling, and so that says a lot. And then ask questions. What was your thinking? What's important to you? What result did you want? Any questions on that so far? Is it all making sense?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, great. All right. So let's talk about creating raving fans. So this is a really, I know this sounds really odd, raving fans, not stalkers, just raving. So what this is about is if we behave in a certain way and we show our leadership, we're going to create positivity around us, right? People are going to want to be with us. They're going to want to lead, be led by us. And so that's what we're talking about here with creating raving fans. So we're going to go through some points on how to do that. Number 1, give honest and sincere appreciation. Now again, this feeds really nicely into the culture we're trying to build here at Allergan. As I said before, through our thank you days. Not our thank you days, our thank you cards. You know, and just that opportunity to take a few minutes of your day to say thank you to somebody and to write that card and to give it to them. I've done given a few out, and I can say the reaction has been amazing. You know, people are just, they just face lights up because they think you've actually just taken that little bit of time. It's got to be obviously sincere. We're not doing it because we have to. Do it when you feel that it's the right thing to do. We're just going to show you another video now of exactly this. So this is the one I have to.
Khi các ơi, anh biết, ông ấy thay đổi đi. Cứ thằng anh nhá. Tháo vào
What? Hello?
Isn't that lovely? It really says a lot. 30 years down the track, and he remembered. So again, it goes back to almost one of those lollipop moments.
Yeah.
So the next point is about don't criticise, condemn or complain. Again, this is about taking the drama out of our